Do you see me, Vitaly?
Hello?
Yes, we see you.
Yes?
Speak, please.
Yes. So, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Florence Vivien. I'm French, living in Paris, and I'm very.
We not see you. We not see you.
Yes.
Please push the video camera.
Here, do you see me?
Normally, yes, you see.
Right. And I'm delighted to speak to this festival and all the persons who are here. And I thank Eugenie Luskavskov to invited me to speak with you. Eugenie Lukassov told me to speak to you about two subjects which are my favorites. The first subject is French food, and the second subject is art. And French food, why? Because when I was a child, I was partly raised in the Lyonnaise region of France, and the region of Lyon is a region which is very famous for its gastronomy and its love of good products and very good meals. And so I will speak to you about French food. French food is very famous all over the world. I think that it's because we have very good products in France. The people who do the agricultural people in France are very efficient and have a lot of experience in making the products grow. So we can have very good vegetables and fruits, very fresh, and that it's very important to make good food. Generally, when in France you want to do good cooking, you buy your products at the small producers, and you don't buy your products in supermarkets because really the vegetables and the fruits are much fresher, much better, and much tasty when you buy directly to a market or to the small producers. And we have another asset in France about food, is that we have different products, different kind of dishes and meals owing the regions, and that it's a great richness for us, because for instance, if you are going to southwest of France, you will find at every restaurant, even a small cafe, you will find a fat goose liver sliced to it, and which is a very refined food, but as it is a region of the fat goose liver, you will find it nearly at each place. For instance, if you are going to Brittany, you will find very fresh fish and shellfish, and we could have really a delicious food, fresh fish or grilled or with béarnaise sauce, and many shellfish. And so that it's another asset of the French food. So I told you that I was brought up in my childhood mainly in the Lyon region. So the region of Lyon is the second town of France after Paris, and it is located in the southeast of France, not far from Switzerland, and it has a strong tradition of very, very good products, very good food, and Lyon created different products for food. And for instance, in order to give you some examples, I will tell you about the cooking that my grandmother and her helpers were doing. She has a habit to prepare what we call a pâté en croûte, which is a starter, and she used also to prepare a very good chicken with a famous sauce, which is called sauce béchamel. And you can do this sauce with flour, butter. You mix the flour and the butter, and then you pour slowly milk, and you pour everything, and that is with some salt, and that is sauce béchamel. And when this sauce béchamel is ready, you can put it inside, or zucchini, or pasta, or what is the best, which is a very refined product, morels. But you have to put morels who are fresh morels and not dried morels, because in many shops you can see dried morels, but of course the taste is not at all the same. That's a fresh one. And I remember that in the garden of my grandmother, at the bottom of the trees, there were morels, and we went to pick them up to put in the sauce béchamel. And so one of our favorite dish was poulard. It's a French name for a very good chicken with béchamel sauce with morels. My grandmother was also doing so that on the screen is the poulard de Bresse with cream and morels. Poulard de Bresse, it's a dish of the Lyonnaise region made with a chicken who has been brought up in outside in the land, in the grass, and who comes from the region of Bresse, which is a region near Lyon, and which is famous for the brought up of this excellent chicken. It is called poulard of Bresse.
Florence, I'm sorry, we don't see your pictures.
Ah.
Show your pictures, please.
I don't know.
Open the folder. With
yes,
your...
I opened the folder, and the picture is on from my side. The picture is on the screen.
We don't see.
Do you see it? No?
Not. Sorry.
Oh. So I'll
push button on the right, the show of screen.
yes, but I'll try another picture. Do you see this one?
Not, we don't see.
No. So partager, perhaps.
The button on the down of the screen on the right, near the red heart. On the right. Demonstration of screen.
Yes, but I don't know where it is. I don't know. So anyway, I will send the photos later. I think it's better because. Do you still see me?
Okay.
Do you still see me?
Yes, we see you.
Ah, right. And my grandmother was doing also dumplings with morels, still morels with Nantua sauce. So dumplings, they are products from the region of Ain, A-I-N. It's another region near Lyon, and made with flour and with a fish, and mixed, and then you have cooked it with a sauce, which is called sauce Nantua, and this sauce is made of fresh cream and lobster bisque and some cognac, and that it's really a delicious dish. After that, we had as a dessert generally or gâteau roulé, rolled pastry with apricot jam, or we had a famous pastry from another region near Lyon, which is called Ardèche. It's a region where there are many chestnut trees, and so the people used to take to fetch a chestnut, and after that you put them in hot water, and when they had cooked a bit in the hot water, you can take out you can peel them, and then you put them in a kind of syrup made with water and vanilla and sugar, and you have it cooked in this syrup, and when in a kind of puree in this syrup, and then you put it in a dish, and you put the dish in the fridge for all the night, and on the morning you can take the puree, which makes the flavor of chestnut, vanilla and sugar, and you put it in a big dish, and on the top you put what we call in France crème fleurette, which is cream but buttered with some sugar and being very light. And that is a special dish from Ardèche, which was transmitted to my family from our great-great-grandmother, and we don't find the recipe in the cooking books. It's really a family recipe. So in Lyon, there was a very good. There is a tradition of good food. The people of Lyon are very requiring about good food. They can't support to go to a restaurant which is not very really excellent. And there is a kind of restaurants in Lyon which are very famous, which are called les petits bouchons. This name, petit bouchon, it's given to restaurants who are doing the traditional Lyonnaise cuisine with fresh food, and the people from Lyon and the people who knows about the gastronomy used to go when they are in Lyon to go to this restaurant. And I will advise you a restaurant which is in Lyon, which is called Daniel et Denise. It is a petit bouchon, but the chef, Joseph Viola, is also a MOF. A MOF is a famous distinction for chef in France. It wants to say meilleur ouvrier de France. So if I translate it in English, is best worker of France in cooking. So Joseph Viola and his wife Denise bought a restaurant who had already been created by a woman, and they bought it and they perpetuate the traditional Lyonnaise food, and they were so good and they had so many clients that after having begun with one restaurant, they have now 4 restaurants in Lyon, and they have really developed their network of restaurants. So in this restaurant, Daniel et Denise in Lyon, you can have a really delicious meal for a small price between 26 euros and 30 euros, which is really cheap. And you will have, for instance, as a starter, the famous pâté en croûte I already spoke to you. Then you will have the dumplings with sauce Nantua. And as a dessert, you will have the île flottante, which is a dessert with a cream made with yolk and milk and sugar, and another part which is made with other part of the egg, and on the top there are praline, which is a special kind of a bit like an almond, you know, but it's an almond, but with embedded in sugar, and that I don't know why the sugar is always colored in pink, probably in order to be more funny. So I will, of course, I will send to you after. I will send to Eugenie after all the addresses of and the picture I speak of the meals I speak about. And Daniel et Denise was, perhaps you don't know, but probably you don't know, but there is a competition about the best pâté en croûte in the world, and Daniel et Denise compete to this pâté en croûte, which is made with veal and fat duck liver. They compete for this competition, and in 2009 they won the competition. They won the prize of the best pâté en croûte of the world. And Élysée Palace, where the president of France lived, asked them for their recipe. And of course, the Joseph Viola, the chef of Daniel et Denise, sent a recipe to the Élysée Palace. He couldn't say no. I don't know how many of you have already been to France, but France is worldly known for its wide range of cheese. In fact, in France, we have 360 kinds of cheese, and we are very proud of it. And generally, the French who love food, used to eat cheese for their lunch between the main course and the dessert, and at the dinner also between the main course and the dessert. So it's a bit the same that for food. You have different cheese among the regions, and I choose 3 regions to quote to you some of his cheese specialty. For instance, in Seine-et-Marne, which is a region near Paris, you will find the Coulommiers, the Brie de Meaux, and the Brie de Melun. You see that there is the same cheese, the Brie, from 2 towns, one from the town of Meaux, one from the town of Melun, and the taste is different. You have another region which is very famous for cheese, is Bourgogne-Franche-Comté. There in Bourgogne-Franche-Comté you will find the Mont d'Or, the Morbier, and the Comté. The Comté is also a famous cheese in France, which many people love to eat, and you can put it also on in cooking to optimize the taste of a dish. The third region I choose is the Occitanie, a region in the southwest of France. The cheese are Roquefort, Bleu d'Écosse, that they are cow milk cheese, and they have many cheese with sheep milk, as a crottin de Manon. Crottin is a kind of spot. Manon, it's the name of a woman, and Pelardon, and they are very, very good. I want also to quote you a famous cheese. Probably you have heard about it. Is a Camembert. Is a cheese from Normandy, so northwest of France, and so it's very good when it's done naturally with cow milk, and it's very tasty. And when it's a good season for the Camembert, you don't have to buy a Camembert in a supermarket, because the taste it's totally different and without and not so tasty. And there is a famous chef in France who is called Jean-Claude Kerman, who give a fine recipe. It's serving a Camembert with on the top some pinch of caviar, and that it's a very refined manner of serving the cheese, and it's very good. But this chef advised that when you serve that Camembert with caviar, it's better to choose among the Normandy Camembert the Camembert who is coming from a small part of Normandy, which is called Cotentin. I repeat, Cotentin, because this part of Normandy is like an island, not a total island, but like an island, and the Camembert has the flavor of the sea, and it matches perfectly with the caviar. So, as you know also that French is famous for its desserts. We have many kind of pastries, and I remind you that the pastries in France are served in much tinier slice than in United States and in Germany. In United States and Germany, when you ask at a tea room or in a restaurant, when they give you the dessert and pastries, they give you a very huge slice of the pastry. but in France it's a tinier slice, and sometimes you can have various desserts in the same time. So we have various famous pastries as the Saint-Honoré, also chestnut pastry Mont Blanc. It's another pastry with chestnut, but a different one of the chestnut pastry of my great-great-grandmother, but very good also. And you have also the fraisier, which is made with marzipan, cream, a slice of marzipan, cream, and a slice of strawberry, of raspberry. And you have Île Flottante, who was the dessert I spoke to you about when I spoke about Daniel and Denise. So I can advise for those who come regularly to Paris, who like to come to Paris, plan to come to Paris, that there is a very good tea room. It is in my district, the 16th district of Paris, near Trocadero. And there is a very nice tea room, which is also a restaurant. It's called Carrette. I will send you all the files and the pictures. It's called Carrette, C-A-R-E-T-T-E. It's located Trocadero Square, and this square is gorgeous because it's a bit in high, and from this height you can see Eiffel Tower. So the spot really worthwhile going. And the restaurant Tea Room Carrette serves really delicious pastry, many pastries, chocolate pastries, fraisier, cherries pastries, ice cream, and it's really delicious. And each of my friends who comes to Paris generally I go with them to have a lunch or at least an afternoon tea with pastries at Carrette, and I advise you strongly to go there when you come to Paris. There is another still about French food and French art de vivre. I will advise you also to go in a famous spot that probably you already have heard about it. It's Hotel Ritz in Paris. Hotel Ritz, and Hotel Ritz is located in Place Vendôme, which is a very old square in the center, right in the center of Paris. The square is surrounded with old mansion house of 18th century, and they were kept in as they were and in a very good state of maintenance. And the Hotel Ritz is a famous hotel. Is the first Hotel Ritz, because now you have other Hotel Ritz in, for instance, there is one in London. But the first Hotel Ritz was created in Paris, and is this one who gave this famous name. It was created by a man who was called César Ritz, and now this hotel is property of an Egyptian British billionaire, Mohammed Al Fayed. And the Hotel Ritz is so in an old mansion house of the 18th century. 3 years ago, the hotel was totally refurbished, but by the contrary to other luxurious hotels, which when they are refurbished in a modern manner, Mohammed Al Fayed decided to keep the tradition, the French tradition, the French art de vivre, and the hotel was refurbished, but in the same way than before. So with traditional French furniture, French paneling, French carpets, and so on. So the hotel is really very luxurious, comfortable. The people who are served here, waiters and all the staff are really first-rate professionals. And the atmosphere is really superb. So, of course, it's an hotel where everything is expensive because it's really the quintessence of luxury. But you can go, for instance, only to have a drink at the bar, one of the bars which is called Bar Vendôme, and it's all right. And if you don't want to spend too much money, you can go at the Bar Vendôme and have a drink, and so you can stroll in the hotel and take the advantage of being at Bar Vendôme, which is a very nice place. Or if you want to spend more, you can go to the restaurant, which is called l'Espadon, and or to another bar, and also you can stay some nights at the hotel. So I finished my feelings about French food. My main items I could transmit to you, and because there will be so much to say, and I will talk to you about art. So I worked during 40 years in investment banking, but I was always very interested in art, firstly in classical art, so big paintings of 16th century, 17th century, 18th century, 19th century. So I went to see them in museums and or at art collectors. And I used to buy some paintings of the 19th century because that was in my means. But the other one from older centuries, it was too costly for me. So I couldn't buy. I just admire them regularly in museums in France and during my travels abroad. And but some years ago, a friend who is an art collector of modern art invited me to a private visit, and it was a private visit about a very modern artist, which is Claude Ruteau. And so it was I find it very interesting, and my eye became accustomed to modern art, you know. And so when I could leave the investment banking, as my career was finished, I decided to create a company, and I created a company in the sector of art, which is called Galaxy ART. And this company represent artists who are living artists who are called emergents. So it wants to say that the artists which have still not a high quotation, but they are in devenir. And the company has the aim to promote them, to make them known, and to sell their work. And generally I select the artists that the company represent with two weights. So the technique of their work, they have to be very good at techniques, painting techniques, and also the feeling they express in their work. Because you have artists who are very good at technique, but when they do an artwork, they represent an artwork who had already been represented. They are too inspired by an artwork who already exists. And it's not what we wait for an artist. We wait for an artist that among, for instance, about a landscape or a figure, he expresses his own feeling, and this makes you feel something new, something strong, and so that it's very important. So I select the artist owing these two grades. I will tell you about the artist Galaxy Art represents. It represents, there are two artists who are from a surrealist trend, and je sais pas si on entend. Surrealist trend. The first one is called, his name is Daniel Dong. He's from Argentina and he lives in Buenos Aires. The second one is Santiago Ascui, also from Argentina, living in Buenos Aires. So there is another artist which is who is a modern, very contemporary abstract artist who is called Patrick Justin, and another one who is an Indian, a woman from India who lives in India, but she exhibits in different parts of the world, and she makes figurative paintings. As for instance, she loves to paint water. Kind of water lily, the lotus, a kind of water lily, which is a sacred flower in India, and horses. I'm also fond of sculpture, and I have different sculpture. I have a different sculpture. Galaxy Art represents a German sculptor who has his own forgery. And you can see his sculpture behind my back. Represent his name is Joachim Arbert, and is already well known in Germany. Galaxy Art represents also a Bahraini sculptor, from the state of Bahrain in Middle East. Who does beautiful sculpture, generally huge sculptures, and you could put indoor or outdoor, and they are in steel, and so you can put it all in your house or flat, but it's sometimes they are huge, and or in your garden or your park. And Galaxy Art represents also an artist who is from Chile, but who lives in France, and who does very nice sculpture, smaller sculptures, generally in cover and with different colors.
Dear Florence, we have a demonstration of screen, and we don't see the pictures.
Yes, because I don't know how to put
open the folder on the down, okay?
Yes, but I did.
And open the pictures.
Yes, I know. Do you see the picture?
Yes, now we see.
Ah, so great. Oh, it's a pity I didn't find it again before. Sorry. So that it's to show you an example of the paintings that Galaxy Art represents. Galaxy Art participate to art fairs in different countries, in Paris, in Monaco, in Luxembourg, in Belgium, and in Switzerland. And she planned also to exhibit in other countries. And generally, so Galaxy Art went to booth in an art fair and present the paintings. And there you have a picture of the booth of Galaxy Art at the art fair Art Luxembourg, which took place in Luxembourg in the beginning of December of last year. And here you can see a picture, the painting here on the big painting representing a house along the sea. Did you see it? And
yes, we see. It's very small. It's very small.
No, it's a rather big one. You see the booth. You see the picture with the booth.
Okay.
Yes, and so this painting, which represents a house along the sea, has been done by the Argentinian artist, who is called Santiago Asqui. And this painting has all a story. It represents the house of a famous painter who was called César Páez Vilaro, who was from Uruguay, and he lived in Uruguay, but he came also to France, and he worked with Picasso. He was of the generation of Picasso. He worked with Picasso. He did painting as Picasso. He did also ceramics, you know. And so the young artist Santiago Asqui knows the grandchildren of César Páez Vilaro, and he was invited many times to this house of Páez Vilaro, and he painted the house. César Vilaro was very famous, and he had been built a huge house where for each of his men friends, he was built a room and a bathroom to accommodate his friend when he wants to come in his house. And the house is located in Uruguay, in a famous spot, a very fashionable spot where a lot of people from South America used to spend their holiday, and it's called Punta del Este. And there, after you have a painting representing a sky, it's another painting by Santiago Asqui. And you can see 3 sculptures. They are the sculptures by Joachim Arbut. Do you see the panel? Do you see?
Yes, we see.
Yes, that is a panel about Galaxy Art.
Okay.
And I will send it to Eugenie after, that you can keep it. And so...
Can you show the art of your artists?
Yes, I already show that. So that is a painting by Daniel Donk, the other artist from Argentina. So these 2 artists from Argentina are from the surrealist trend, you know, but with their personal feelings that they express with their artwork. And that it describes a man who is seated near a railway, and in the train that is going on further. This man is thinking to his future, and in the train you can see a tiny figure who represents this man on the way of the life, and he thinks about his future and he don't know what will happen. Another picture, another painting by Daniel Donk. This one is called Amour Ancestral, and you see it's you can see the head of a god, and this head is being destroyed because the god will disappear in another world, and in the head at the top, in the crutch head, you have a small woman, and she's the lover of the god, and she knows that he will disappear to another world, and that she couldn't see him again, and so she's desperate. Here is a painting by Patrick Justin. You see that is not figurative art because there are no face, no landscape, no characters. No, it's not figurative art. It's purely abstract art, and it's a beautiful painting which is called Mirage. Another painting by Patrick Justin. This one is called Triptych, and you see it's also abstract and with a strong play with colors, blue and different colors of tones of red. Here Here is a picture of the Indian artist who is called, her name is Sujata Deer. She lives in New Delhi, and she's was a famous artist who had exhibited in United States, in Great Britain, and in different countries. And she paints mainly, she loves painting lotus, which is a sacred flower in India, and that you have pictures of a lotus painting by her. She also loves to paint horses, but I don't have horse painting at the moment. About the sculpture, I show you the sculptures. That is a sculpture. The three are part of the same sculpture. Is a sculpture made by Joachim Arbut, the German sculptor. And this one is a sculpture made by Pinto, the artist who comes from Chile but who lives in France. And you see it's copper, made with copper, enamel, and other materials, and the copper is not totally cooked in the oven, and so it makes this green color. Now I want to speak to you about some highlights of the art market. So the art market, you know, it's a worldly, a global market. So there are three main spots leading the market in the world. There are Paris, London, and New York. The biggest auction take place in these three towns, and generally the artists from different parts of the world, they want to come and live some years in London, or some years in New York, or some years some years in Paris, in order to meet other artists, to feel the trends of the art market, of the art, and so on, and exchange with art collectors and other artists. And so I will speak to you about some highlights of the art market these last years. So firstly, I want to tell you about an artist which is very famous. His name is Banksy, B-A-N-S-K-Y. In fact, nobody knows who really is Banksy. He does paintings or sometimes sculptures, which is named Banksy, but it doesn't appear. And people doesn't know really, even art collectors, auctioneers, doesn't know really who is the real person behind this name Banksy. Anyway, Banksy is gifted, and he had the sense of marketing, and he became very famous, and his work of art are sold at very high prices. And lastly, at an auction in London, an auction at Sotheby's, the famous auctioneer, this painting, which is title is La Petite Fille au Ballon, the little girl with the balloons, was sold in an auction in 2018, so at Sotheby's in London. And the auction was finished, and the painting had just been bought by an art collector. We don't know the name of the art collector because it could be confidential, for £1 million. And in front of the eyes of all the people in the auctioneer room, the painting was destroyed, was partly destroyed. So you can see the painting as it was hung on the auctioneer room, and then the painting destroyed automatically after when it was sold. And in fact, Banksy, who loves to make buzz and to surprise people and art collectors, had incorporated a small machine in the painting, and it was programmed to make the painting partly destroyed when the auction for this painting was finished. And so later Banksy said, "Oh, it's a pleasure to destroy in order to begin again." So the art collector who had bought this painting was a bit surprised and a bit in trouble, and he went to see the owner, the management of Sotheby's, the auctioneer, but the auctioneers told him, "But now your painting is so famous all over the world that it worth much more than the £1 million you bought it." And so the art collector was happy. Sorry, I was looking for another painting, but I don't find it anywhere. I will send it to you. So there is another very famous painter who is Francis Bacon, and this painter is a British painter. He died some years ago. He became very, very famous. He was a gay man, and he was born during the Second World War in London, when London was destroyed by the bombing. So the work of Francis Bacon is very impressed by destroying the destroying of the world, and because he lives this carpet bombing in London, and also the gay trends that he wants to become natural and recognized. And so all his painting is done with this that, and so he is very, very. I'm looking for a picture of him, but so it would be too long. Sorry. And in 2019. One of his paintings reached a very, very high price in an auction in Paris, and it was the study from Innocent 10, portrait by Velázquez. And this painting, made by Bacon in 1952, was sold $50 million in 2019. Why the strange title of this portrait? In fact, it's Bacon did this painting, taking as the first step a famous portrait of the Pope Innocent X, who was living at the period of the 17th century, and who has been painted by Velázquez. But Bacon did, from a classical painting of the 17th century, he did a very modern and tormented and full of interrogation painting of this Pope. There is another artist I would like to speak to you. Is this one, Pinto? His name is Christo. So Christo was an artist from an East country, I think from Slovakia, and he met a woman from the French aristocracy, and they worked together all these last years, and they had found a kind of artwork which consists in asking to a government the right to embedded with paper or pieces of materials of a famous building. So they did that with a different building in the world, and they had the project of doing that with the Arc de Triomphe. Is the picture I show you. It was their next project. But but his wife disappeared 1 year ago, and Christo just died some months ago. So we could think that this project was abandoned, but in fact no, the French government and Ministry of Culture, it is said that they will go on with the project. So Christo was embedding famous buildings, and so his projects were famous all over the world, and he was making etchings and paintings of the famous building wrapped in paper or materials, and is sold to art collectors these etchings and these paintings. And so when a new building was worked like that, many art collectors were waiting for the artwork of Christo inspired by this building being worked. At the end, I will speak to you about another artist. It's a French artist who is very famous in France and all over the world too. He's French. His name is Pierre Soulages, S-O-U-L-A-G-E-S, Pierre Soulages. And this man is at the moment 100 years old. He became very, very famous. He's one of the great French artists. His artwork reached huge prize. And he has the honor of being exhibited at the Museum of the Louvre last year, which is a great honor because very few painters who are living are exhibited in this museum, which is more a classical museum. And so it was a huge honor. Pierre Soulages is very known because he paints artworks generally all in black or in a color which is called outre noir, which is a kind of black mixed with a brou de noir, and which is brown dark color. And in his paintings, he mixed different tones of darks, working with the thickness or not of the painting. So there is a play in his painting between the different tones of dark and outre noir and the thickness of the material. And it's like that because of that he became very, very famous. So I'd like I told you the last highlights about the art market, but it's always renewing. There is always a new highlights, and now I think I transmit you my main thinking about French food and art, and of course I will send you. I'll show you again the files of Galaxy Art. You can go and see the website. You have all my files, the email of the gallery when you can join me all the time, and my phone call, my cell phone, and you can, of course, I invite you to come to Paris when you have the opportunity to do it. And if you plan to come to Paris, my husband and I will be delighted to know it in advance and to invite you at home for a drink or a cocktail, and to go with you in the spots I advise you to go, and to advise you other spots, and of course to introduce us to our friends to events in Paris. In order that you have a stay with French people and knowing the nice French spots. So thank you very much for having listened me, and so thank you very much.
Thank you a lot of. Thank you for your inviting to Paris.
Yes.
Merci beaucoup. Au revoir.
Merci.
Goodbye. See you.
Au revoir.